So Kenny, you were in the course with Beck and me last week, and we were talking about these pivots that everyone's learning about through this online course right now. And you also did an interview with a teen as one of the course assignments, and your reflection really stood out to me. And I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what came up in your interview, who you were interviewing, and what felt so different for you about that conversation.
Yeah, so it's a very, very interesting experience for me because he was my former student. And we had a good relationship before, but we didn't really get to talk a lot about tech usage. So it's the first time that we really engage in such kind of conversation. So maybe just a little bit more about the background and the context of this student. Because of family reasons, he was living alone since when I was his teacher, since when he was in high school. And he obviously uses smartphone like a normal teenager. But when I asked what's his favorite app, the answer is sort of has taken me by surprise. So he said Safari and YouTube. So I'm really curious about what he likes watching on YouTube. And he says he loves watching those channels about male self care. And it really occurs to me that he doesn't have a lot of opportunity to talk about these topics among his male dominant friend groups, particularly because there is this sort of taboo in those friend groups that you should not be taking care of yourself and taking care of your skin. But he told me that it's good to feel good about himself. And I think that's particularly powerful because he's living uh, uh, alone and that he doesn't really have anyone, even his family members, to talk about these issues. And I guess YouTube is one of a very good outlet for him to really get those information.
Hearing you share that story in class the other day also reminded me of a conversation that I had recently with a teen who was talking about the way that she had been using Instagram to learn about how people were living with a chronic illness that she had just been diagnosed with. And she was trying to figure out how to make sense of what this diagnosis meant for her life. And she actually found this whole community and all of these sources of inspiration. And she was learning a lot about positive ways of managing this illness through social media. And it's not to say that every online community is good or that when students are even using social media to explore parts of their identity or something like a health diagnosis, certainly there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of content that isn't good out there. But I think actually so often when we get really curious about how our students' lives and the things that are hard for them are intersecting with social media and technology, it completely changes the way we think about what's happening when we turn and see a teen with their eyes on their phone.
Yeah, totally. And also, just one more thing to add is that they often there are no good or bad content, right? There is just content that resonates with teens and content that they find helpful in that particular situation and circumstances for their lives. So, for example, he also watched extensively productivity videos. Maybe for some other teenagers that will be detrimental to their well-being. Maybe that it will, really put on a lot of pressure for them. But for my student in particular, he really enjoyed those things. So I guess tech in this situation really is playing a role in his life that there are no adults in his life that can play.
Thanks so much for sharing that.